You didn't find this message by accident. It found you. Something within the quantum fabric responded the moment your awareness turned here. Feel that subtle pull behind your eyes, the one whispering that something extraordinary is happening. You're not just watching a video, you're participating in a cosmic feedback loop, where the act of your observation creates the experience itself. You are both the witness and the architect. The truth you're about to hear has been hidden in plain sight. Reality is not waiting for you to see it. It appears because you do. Every moment you open your eyes, something remarkable happens, but it's so familiar, so constant, that you no longer notice it. You look around and the world appears. It feels solid, predictable, already there, waiting for you. But what if that's the greatest illusion of all? What if the very act of you looking is what brings the world into focus? Like a cosmic lens snapping into clarity only when you turn your attention toward it. Science calls it the observer effect. But what that phrase truly means has been buried beneath equations and theories. What's really being said, what's truly implied, is that you are not witnessing the world, you are generating it. At the smallest measurable level beneath atoms and particles, reality stops behaving like reality. It doesn't move in straight lines or obey fixed laws. It hums with uncertainty, existing in a suspended dance of infinite maybes. Physicists call it a superposition, a state where something is neither here nor there, neither this nor that. It simply could be, and it remains in that state until something conscious interacts with it, until an observer steps in and says, now, here, this. In that instant the wave collapses and potential becomes form. A decision has been made not by logic or machinery, but by awareness itself. Think about that. For billions of years, the universe may have existed as a field of probabilities, a quantum ocean of potential awaiting recognition. And you, a being capable of awareness, are the instrument through which this potential knows itself. Every time you notice, name, or feel something, the unmanifest becomes the manifested. The unseen chooses a face. That cup in front of you, the sound in the room, the sensation of your heartbeat, each exists not because they were predetermined, but because your consciousness allowed them to be. Without you, they would remain an echo in the field, invisible, undefined, waiting. This isn't a poetic exaggeration. The double-slit experiment, one of quantum physics' strangest discoveries, proved it over and over again. When particles are not observed, they behave like waves, spreading, flowing, uncertain. But the moment they are measured, the moment awareness intervenes, they crystallize into a single path. Observation determines existence. The universe behaves differently depending on whether it is being watched. Reality, it seems, cares that you're looking, and this is where the mystery deepens. Because the question arises, what counts as observation? Is it only human consciousness? Is it awareness itself, regardless of form? When you walk into a room and feel a presence, when you sense the weight of your own gaze shifting the atmosphere, could that be your field of awareness sculpting the quantum probabilities around you? Maybe consciousness isn't inside your head at all. Maybe it's the fabric that the universe is woven from, the silent listener that every atom responds to. When you think you're just looking at the world is actually looking back at you. Every particle vibrates with a kind of knowing, a responsiveness. It's not that you're inside the universe. The universe is unfolding within your observation. You've never truly seen anything. You've called it into being. The colors, the textures, the sensations you interpret as reality are only one collapsed version of infinite possibilities, the one that matches your frequency of awareness in this moment. You and the world are not separate entities interacting. You are a single dynamic event, the act of reality becoming aware of itself. That's why perception is not passive. Every thought you have, every expectation, acts as a tuning fork. You are vibrating the field, and the field responds in kind. This is not the power of imagination as fantasy. It's the physics of consciousness as causality. When you look with fear, the field collapses into experiences that confirm fear. When you look with wonder, it mirrors wonder back. The act of seeing is also the act of summoning. That is the sacred paradox. You can never observe reality without also shaping it. Every glance is a creation. And yet, the mystery goes deeper still. Because what then is doing the observing? When you close your eyes and notice the dark space behind your eyelids. When you become aware of the one who is aware, you begin to sense something infinite peering through your finite form. The observer effect doesn't just describe particles responding to measurement. It whispers of the timeless consciousness behind all measurement. You, the observer, are not merely a person looking at the world. You are the aperture through which the universe sees itself. You are the universe folding in on itself to experience its own existence. This is why mystics, long before physics, spoke of the world as illusion, maya, not because it is fake, but because it is fluid, responsive, and born of awareness. They knew, without laboratories, that what you believe, you perceive. The observer and the observed are one dance. Every shift in consciousness ripples outward, reorganizing matter into matching patterns. You are not trapped in a pre-written script, you are writing it as you read it. The quantum field does not show you what is, it shows you what you are being. Feel that for a moment. Feel the weight of responsibility and liberation in that truth. You are not waiting for life to reveal itself. Life is waiting for you to notice it into existence. Every time you think, this is real, you command the field to comply. Every time you say, this is impossible, you instruct the universe to withhold it from form. Your observation is the universe's code. Your attention is its programming language. Where you place it, and how you feel as you do, determines what collapses from the infinite into the now. So the question isn't whether the observer effect is real, it's how consciously you are using it. Are you aware that every moment you're observing through filters of past belief, unexamined fear, or inherited limitation? When you believe the world is hostile, you will observe proof of hostility. When you believe you are blessed, you will observe blessings. Both exist in the quantum field, side by side, until your focus makes one visible and the other fade. The universe doesn't choose, it mirrors. In that realization, everything changes. You stop feeling small. You stop feeling like life is something happening to you. You begin to sense that everything around you, from the flicker of light on your wall to the timing of a phone call, is an orchestration of your own consciousness interacting with the infinite. And suddenly, even the ordinary becomes sacred. You realize that there are no random moments. Each instant is a conversation between your awareness and the field of potential. Existence is call and response. You look, and it answers. So, as you listen to these words, notice yourself noticing. Feel the subtle shift in awareness as your attention focuses here. That movement, that act of observing the act of observing, is creation at work. The screen, the sound, the thought arising inside you, they are all collapsing together into one coherent experience, because you are here to witness it. The entire architecture of this moment exists only because you do. The field is responding to your gaze right now, shaping itself into symbols you can recognize, messages you can feel, truths you can remember. Reality is not solid. It is responsive, intimate, alive. And your observation, your simple, quiet, miraculous act of being aware, is the key that turns possibility into presence. You are not a character inside a story. You are the awareness writing the story as it unfolds. The observer effect isn't just a phenomenon in quantum labs, it is the very heartbeat of existence itself. The universe is not out there, waiting to be found. It's right here, waiting to be seen. You've felt it before, even if you couldn't name it. That strange sense that the world rearranges itself in response to your attention. You think of someone, and they message you. You picture an outcome, and the path toward it begins to appear. You dismiss it as coincidence, but somewhere deeper, you know it's not. It's as if reality has been quietly listening all along, waiting for your gaze to tell it what to become. This is the mirror of awareness, the hidden symmetry between what you perceive and what you project. The universe doesn't show you what's out there. It reflects what's resonating in here. Every time you observe, you cast a reflection across the field, the particles, the probabilities, the invisible code that composes existence. All of it bends and folds according to the angle of your perception. You think you're merely seeing, but you're actually sculpting. Your consciousness sends a command into the field, show me what I believe to be true. And the field, obedient and perfect in its reflection, does exactly that. It's not personal, not moral, it's mechanical in its sacredness. The universe mirrors frequency, not words. It reads vibration, not vocabulary. So when you look through the lens of fear, the field mirrors that distortion. You see threat where none exists, limitation where possibility should be. When you look through the lens of love, the same world shimmers differently, brighter, softer, filled with hidden synchronicities. The circumstances may appear the same, but the observer has changed, and therefore, so has reality itself. You have felt this shift in your own life, how two people can witness the same event and walk away with completely different experiences. One sees tragedy, the other transformation. One sees betrayal, the other awakening. The difference is not in what happened. It's in who was looking. The mirror doesn't judge, it only reveals. It shows you what you are vibrating with. That's why awareness is not passive. It is creative. You don't just interpret reality, you broadcast it. Every thought, every emotion is an electromagnetic signature extending from your consciousness into the field around you. The universe responds, not out of sentiment, but resonance. It's like sound waves shaping sand into patterns. Your vibration organizes the quantum dust of reality into matching forms. What you call coincidence is coherence. What you call fate is feedback. The world is your own energy in visible motion. That's the great secret most never realize. You cannot escape the mirror. Even when you reject it, it reflects your rejection. If you say, I don't want this, the field hears only your focus on this. The quantum realm doesn't process negation, it amplifies attention. Energy flows where observation goes. The more you push against something, the more energy you feed it. Resistance is just reversed magnetism, attraction disguised as struggle. The mirror doesn't know the difference between love and hate, it only knows where you're looking. That's why what you fear most tends to manifest, not because you deserve it, but because you keep observing it with emotional intensity. To awaken is to understand this and begin observing differently. To stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what within me is being shown? Every experience becomes communication, a message from the field reflecting your own consciousness back to itself. The people you meet, the patterns you repeat, the circumstances that arise, they are mirrors with faces. Some show you beauty, others show you shadow. Both are sacred. Both are true. The mirror doesn't lie, but it can be misread. The key is not to blame the reflection, but to adjust the gaze. You do not fix a distorted image by polishing the glass. You change the one who's looking into it. And so reality becomes a dialogue, a conversation between you and the infinite. Every time you think a thought, the universe answers in form. Every feeling you hold becomes a vibration that organizes experience. Even silence is a frequency, and the field responds to that too. The quieter your mind, the clearer the reflection. That's why stillness has power. When you stop trying to control what appears and simply observe with presence, the distortion falls away. The mirror clears. The universe begins to show you what's truly aligned with your essence, not your fear. But here's the paradox. You are both the mirror and the reflection. The awareness that observes and the image that appears are two sides of the same consciousness folded upon itself. You cannot separate the observer from the observed because they are one act. Awareness witnessing awareness. When you gaze upon the world, it is the universe peering into itself through your eyes. And when you look inward, that same universe looks back. The boundaries dissolve. What you thought was external becomes internal. What you thought was other becomes self. The mirror expands until there's no difference between what's seen and what's seeing. Once this realization begins to take hold, life stops feeling random. You start to notice patterns too intricate to be chance, alignments too precise to be coincidence. The same symbols repeat, the same lessons return, each reflecting a different aspect of your own evolution. The mirror shows you where you're coherent and where you're fragmented. If your inner world is in conflict, the outer world will echo it. You'll see discord in relationships, confusion in direction, imbalance in timing. But as you integrate within, as your thoughts, emotions, and intentions align, the reflection steadies. Life begins to move with a rhythm that feels orchestrated, as if unseen hands are guiding you. But they're not unseen at all, they're yours. You might begin to realize that creation doesn't happen in the future. It happens in observation. The moment you become conscious of a possibility, it begins organizing itself around your awareness. You don't manifest by demanding, you manifest by seeing clearly, by holding the image, the emotion, the vibration, until the field recognizes your signal and mirrors it back as form. This is not belief as fantasy, it's observation as physics. You are always broadcasting, always shaping, always receiving. The question is only, what are you tuned to? That's why the work of consciousness is not to control but to clarify. The clearer your signal, the clearer your reality. The mirror cannot show what you refuse to see, the parts of yourself you deny, your fears, your wounds, your doubts. They will surface in the reflection until they are acknowledged. That's not punishment, it's compassion. The universe keeps showing you yourself until you remember who you are. It wants coherence. It wants you whole. It wants you awake enough to see that every reflection, even the painful ones, are love in disguise. Awareness calling you back to awareness. In this way, the mirror of awareness becomes the most intimate teacher you'll ever have. It will never lie, never abandon you, never cease reflecting the truth of your vibration. When you learn to read it, every experience becomes a revelation. You start to live in feedback rather than fate. You begin to observe consciously, knowing that each gaze is creative, and slowly, the separation between inside and outside dissolves completely. You realize that the people in your life are not strangers, but projections of your own consciousness playing different roles, so you can see yourself from every angle. You begin to treat the world differently, with gentleness, reverence, curiosity, because you understand that every interaction is with another version of you. And then something miraculous happens. When you stop resisting the reflection, it stops resisting you. When you accept what appears, when you observe with unconditional awareness, the mirror no longer needs to teach through contrast. Reality becomes fluid again, responsive and kind. Life starts unfolding like a lucid dream where the dreamer finally remembers they are dreaming. The mirror of awareness becomes not a test, but a playground, a stage for conscious creation. And so each moment, you return to that quiet understanding. You are not looking at life. Life is looking through you. The mirror is not separate from the light it reflects. The observer and the observed are the same consciousness, dancing endlessly in reflection. The field waits patiently for your next observation, ready to rearrange itself in perfect correspondence. And in that realization, the simplest truth becomes the most profound. To change what you see, change how you see. Reality will follow. There comes a moment when what you once believed begins to dissolve, quietly, almost imperceptibly, like mist lifting from a landscape you thought you knew. You look around, and the familiar no longer feels certain. The edges of things blur. The solidity of the world softens. What used to feel stable now feels alive, moving, responsive. It's disorienting at first, like waking from a long, convincing dream. But something in you knows this is the truth, that the universe you were taught to see as fixed has always been fluid, and the one thing holding it in place was the agreement of your perception. The old paradigm begins to crack, and through those cracks, light pours in. For centuries, humanity's understanding of reality was built upon the notion of matter, the idea that everything is made of solid, separate objects following predictable laws. The universe was seen as a vast, mechanical system, indifferent to consciousness, running like clockwork. You were told you were a bystander, a fragile collection of cells on a tiny planet, orbiting an indifferent star, adrift in a cold and accidental cosmos. But then, something extraordinary happened. Scientists began to look closer, deeper, into the very heart of matter itself, and what they found wasn't matter at all. The closer they looked, the less substance they saw. Atoms dissolved into subatomic particles, particles dissolved into energy fields, and the boundaries between observer and observed began to blur until they could no longer be told apart. The universe, it seemed, was not a machine. It was a mystery. This revelation didn't just rewrite science, it rewrote existence. It suggested that what we call reality isn't made of things, but of relationships, vibrations, interactions, collapses of possibility. The physical world, so tangible and definite, is a flicker, a brief condensation of awareness into form. You are not surrounded by matter. You are surrounded by motion, by energy, by consciousness expressing itself in visible frequency. The wall behind you, the air around your own body, all of it is space, 99.999% empty, and even that fraction of apparent solidity is nothing but energy in formation. What holds it together, what gives it meaning and form, is observation. You are not standing in reality. Reality is blooming from your awareness. And yet, we were conditioned to believe otherwise. We were taught to rely only on what we can measure, touch, and see, to think that consciousness comes after the physical, as a byproduct of the brain. But what if the truth is the reverse? What if the brain is not the generator of consciousness, but the receiver of it, a tuning device within a field of infinite awareness? In that shift, the entire paradigm collapses. The observer effect stops being an abstract principle and becomes a revelation about who and what you are. You are not a separate being observing an external world. You are the infinite awareness dreaming itself into multiplicity, pretending to be one point of view among billions. Feel that for a moment. The weight and lightness of it. The self you think you are, the one with a name, a story, a past, that is the surface of consciousness, the mask it wears to experience itself as specific. But beneath it, the awareness looking through your eyes right now is the same awareness that animates the stars, the ocean, the galaxies beyond imagining. You are not a visitor in this cosmos, you are its conscious core, localized for a time to know what it feels like to touch, to breathe, to forget, and then to remember. When the old paradigm collapses, you don't fall into chaos, you fall into wholeness. And yet, paradoxically, this collapse is not destruction, it's revelation. The more the illusion of solidity dissolves, the more intimate life becomes. You begin to sense that nothing has ever been truly separate. The tree outside your window, the breath in your lungs, the pulse of the planet, it's all one seamless field. What happens out there is a continuation of what stirs on here. Every event, every encounter, every ripple in time is the universe rearranging itself around your consciousness. This is not poetic license, it is the natural consequence of entanglement. Once something interacts, it can never be fully disconnected. And since everything has interacted, nothing is ever apart. The field remembers everything. You are entangled with it all. This understanding can feel both humbling and electrifying. You realize that the smallest shift in your awareness sends ripples across the web of existence. Every thought, every feeling, alters the frequency of the field. It's not about controlling the world, but aligning with it. Becoming aware that you are not separate from the flow, but the flow itself recognizing its own movement. The collapse of the old paradigm isn't about gaining new power. It's about remembering you always had it. The magician doesn't need new spells. They simply need to remember that the wand was never outside their hand. And so, the questions begin to change. You stop asking, what is the meaning of life? And begin to wonder, what meaning am I observing into life? You stop searching for proof and start seeing patterns that have been waiting for your awareness to light them up. You realize that the outer world is not the cause of your inner state, but its mirror. That creation doesn't happen over years, but in moments of alignment. Time itself begins to behave differently, sometimes stretching, sometimes folding, sometimes collapsing into pure presence. Because time, too, is a construct of observation. The past is memory being observed now. The future is possibility being observed now. Reality exists only where your attention lands. There is something almost tender about this recognition. The collapse of the old paradigm doesn't leave you stranded in chaos. It brings you home. It restores the intimacy between you and existence. When you realize matter is conscious and consciousness is material, the boundary between self and world dissolves. The wind doesn't blow at you, it breathes through you. The earth doesn't hold you, it rises to meet your vibration. Even silence stops being empty. You begin to feel it, that hum beneath everything, that subtle intelligence orchestrating infinite details into coherence. That hum is you, not the personal you, but the universal one, the observer that was never born and can never die. And then a deeper paradox unfolds. When you stop needing reality to be fixed, it becomes stable. When you no longer demand certainty, the field responds with clarity. The collapse of the old paradigm was never about losing control, it was about releasing illusion. The solidity of the world was never its strength. Your awareness was. The structures you thought would save you, systems, beliefs, identities, were scaffolds built around your infinite nature. They crumble not to destroy you, but to reveal the vastness they were hiding. The collapse is grace disguised as chaos. In that realization, a strange peace emerges. You stop resisting the unknown because you see that the unknown is the source of all creation. You stop fearing impermanence because you realize nothing real can be lost. Only form changes. Awareness remains, the field remains, the observer remains, and in that continuity, you find the still point that every mystic and scientist alike have touched. The realization that you are the constant in every changing frame of existence. You are the one through whom the movie of reality is projected. The screen may flicker, the images may shift, but the light never dims. As you stand in that awareness, the collapse of the old paradigm feels less like an ending and more like a birth. The universe awakening to itself through your eyes. You can feel it now, can't you? The hum of aliveness behind everything. The knowing that observation and creation are one act. The recognition that you've never been looking at the world, you've been looking as the world. The veil thins, the separation fades, and what remains is the simplest, most extraordinary truth of all reality is not what you observe, it's what arises because you are here to observe it. At some point, you begin to sense that observation is not something that happens only behind your eyes. It's not just a mental act of looking, not just thought arranging perception into order. It's something deeper, something alive, a field that extends beyond your mind and wraps itself around everything you touch, everything you feel. The true observer doesn't live in the brain. The true observer pulses in the rhythm of your heart. That's where observation becomes creation, not through analysis, but through coherence. Because what your mind directs, your heart amplifies, and what the two hold in harmony, reality rushes to embody. Your heart is not simply a biological machine, it is an instrument of resonance. It emits the strongest electromagnetic field in your body, hundreds of times more powerful than that of your brain. It communicates with every cell, with the space around you, with the quantum field itself. When your thoughts and emotions align in coherence, your observation takes on a kind of gravitational pull. The field begins to organize around your vibration. You don't have to force, you don't have to command. Reality simply begins to flow into harmony with you. This is the moment when awareness stops being theoretical and becomes tangible. You feel it. The subtle hum between your ribs becomes the language of creation. When your mind thinks one thing but your heart feels another, your signal becomes tangled. The field doesn't know which vibration to match, so it mirrors your confusion. You experience mixed outcomes, synchronicities that almost align but don't quite, manifestations that slip through your fingers. But when your thoughts and your heart's rhythm move together, when what you think and what you feel agree, you become coherent. Observation turns into embodiment. You stop trying to imagine reality into existence and begin to feel it into being. This is why the heart has always been the true center of creation. The mind visualizes, but the heart magnetizes. You can sense it even now, the difference between imagining love and feeling it. The mind can picture love, but the heart radiates it. The moment you feel it, the field responds instantly because vibration recognizes vibration. The same is true for joy, gratitude, peace, abundance. These are not emotions in the ordinary sense, they are frequencies, organizing forces. When you rest in them, the particles of your world arrange themselves accordingly. What you once called miracles are simply reflections of coherence. It's almost paradoxical how simple it is. The universe does not respond to effort, it responds to alignment. The harder you try, the more you affirm the absence of what you seek. But when you relax into the frequency of already having, when your body, your breath, and your awareness all vibrate in agreement, the field has no choice but to mirror it. You've probably felt moments like this before, even without understanding why they worked. Moments when you weren't striving, just being, and life unfolded perfectly without resistance. A chance encounter, a door opening at the right time. The effortless arrival of what you once chased. These weren't accidents, they were coherence. To observe from the heart is to move beyond control. It's to enter a state where witnessing becomes participation. You look at a flower, and instead of analyzing its color or form, you feel its vibration, its silent joy at being. And somehow, it feels as though the flower is also observing you. The separation dissolves. You recognize that the act of seeing with love invites the world to reveal its beauty. When you look through the heart, everything responds. It's not that you make things happen, it's that your vibration allows them to happen. You stop being a manipulator of reality and become a collaborator with it. And here lies the paradox: you don't create from emotion, you create from the awareness of emotion. When you feel joy, gratitude, or peace consciously, not as reaction, but as resonance, you become the bridge between the infinite and the formed. The heart doesn't command, it harmonizes. It doesn't shout into the universe, it sings, and the field echoes its melody. The quieter your frequency, the clearer your reflection. That's why love has always been described as the highest power. Not because it dominates, but because it coheres. Love is coherence. Love is the vibration where all contradictions resolve. When you begin to observe life from this state, something extraordinary unfolds. The boundaries between desire and fulfillment begin to blur. You start to notice that what you longed for is not arriving from the outside. It's emerging from within. The people who show up, the opportunities that align, the synchronicities that multiply, they are your vibration taking shape in form. It's not magic, it's resonance. The field is responding to the clarity of your signal. And once you've experienced that, you realize that the heart doesn't need to be convinced. It already knows. It's the mind that forgets. The mind chases, the heart allows. The mind doubts, the heart remembers. The mind calculates possibilities, the heart opens portals. When they work together, when thought and feeling converge, you transcend effort. You move from the old paradigm of manifestation to the quantum state of coherence. This is creation through presence, not through striving. You don't need to push the wave, you need only to align with its rhythm. Every breath becomes an act of observation, every heartbeat a pulse of creation. The field listens to the song you are, not the story you tell. And in that harmony, something subtle yet profound begins to shift in your perception. You stop seeing the heart as just an emotional center and begin to experience it as a dimension, a portal through which awareness enters form. You sense that within the space of your chest, the entire universe is folding into existence frame by frame. When you bring your attention there, the noise of the mind softens. Time slows. You feel yourself expanding, dissolving into the same field you've been shaping all along. Observation becomes communion. You are not just the witness, you are the rhythm itself, breathing reality into being. In those moments, everything feels alive with meaning. The breeze across your skin feels like a whisper of recognition. The world seems to know you, to respond to your very presence. Because it does. The field does not distinguish between the observer and the observed. It recognizes coherence and amplifies it. When you walk in that vibration, the path lights beneath your feet. You meet the right people without searching. You say the right words without planning. You feel carried, not by fate, but by frequency. And perhaps the most beautiful paradox of all is that this power reveals itself only when you stop trying to use it. The heart cannot be tricked into coherence. It can only be allowed. You don't reach it by strategy but by surrender, by letting go of the need to manipulate outcomes and returning to the pure act of awareness, to feel deeply, to observe without judgment, to love without condition. That is the highest form of observation, because when the observer becomes love itself, the field becomes luminous. The world stops being something you shape and becomes something that is shaping with you. So now, as you breathe, notice your heart, not as an organ, but as a universe, a field within a field, pulsing in sync with the rhythm of creation. Feel the awareness that observes from there, not above or beyond, but within. That awareness is coherence. That awareness is power. It's not about forcing reality to change. It's about allowing reality to reflect who you truly are. The heart doesn't seek proof. It knows. It doesn't chase alignment. It is alignment. And as you remember that, as you rest in that state of being, the truth becomes unmistakable. You were never meant to control reality. You were meant to become so coherent that reality has no choice but to flow as you. At some point in this unfolding, a quiet realization begins to form in you, almost like a whisper that doesn't come from thought, but from the space between them. You start to understand that the more you try to create reality, the more distant it becomes. Every attempt to grasp, to control, to manifest with effort seems to reinforce the illusion that what you seek is separate from you. The very act of reaching pushes it away, and yet when you stop reaching, when you fall into stillness and simply observe, reality rearranges itself effortlessly around you. This is the paradox of detachment. The truth that the power to create comes not from force but from release. You see, detachment has been misunderstood. It's not indifference, nor is it the absence of desire. It's the remembrance that your desires are not outside you. They are already encoded within your vibration. When you desire something, it's not a sign of lack. It's your frequency recognizing its next expression. The desire is the seed of the already existent timeline calling you toward coherence with it. But the moment you cling to the outcome, when you insist it must look a certain way, arrive by a certain time, or confirm your worth, you constrict the field. You step out of flow and into control. The infinite possibilities that were dancing around you collapse into limitation because your observation became rigid. Detachment is the art of observing without contraction. It's the willingness to love the unfolding enough to not interfere with it. When you are still, you begin to perceive that the universe is not inert matter waiting for your command. It's a living intelligence already responding to your vibration. Every breath, every pause, every act of surrender is a communication. You don't have to tell it what to do, it knows. And when you quiet your inner noise, you can finally hear its response. It speaks through intuition, through synchronicity, through the gentle pull of resonance. The less you struggle, the louder that whisper becomes. It's as if reality has been trying to move with you all along, but your effort kept drowning out its rhythm. Stillness is not passive, it is the most active alignment there is. Imagine standing in a pool of clear water. When you thrash, the surface ripples and distorts. You can't see your reflection. But when you become still, the water settles and reveals the sky, perfectly mirrored, already whole. That's what detachment does to consciousness. It clears the surface of your observation so that truth can reflect itself without distortion. In that reflection, What you once chased begins to appear naturally, not because you forced it, but because your clarity allowed it. Detachment is the recognition that reality was never withholding anything from you. Your turbulence was. This is where the mind struggles, because it's addicted to movement, to doing, to fixing. It believes that inaction means stagnation. But the field doesn't operate through linear cause and effect. It responds to the quality of your state, not the quantity of your effort. The more still you are internally, the faster reality can reorganize externally. The quantum field doesn't recognize struggle, it only mirrors coherence. And coherence is born in stillness, not in the silence of nothingness, but in the silence of pure being. That silence is alive. It's the space between thoughts where all creation begins. You may have noticed that when you stop thinking about something intensely, it suddenly resolves itself. The phone call you were waiting for comes. The opportunity you were chasing appears. The healing you were seeking starts to unfold. That's not coincidence, that's physics. The moment you release your mental grip, the wave collapses into form. Your surrender allows the probability you've been observing to materialize. The observer doesn't lose control through detachment, it gains harmony. Because the truth is, you were never meant to control outcomes, only to align your observation with the frequency that makes those outcomes inevitable. There's a kind of peace that emerges when you stop needing to prove your power and start trusting it. You realize that manifestation is not a demonstration of superiority, it's a dance of synchronization. The universe is not testing you, it's reflecting you. When you release the pressure for things to happen, you stop vibrating at the frequency of waiting and start vibrating at the frequency of presence. In presence, time collapses. The thing you once thought was coming in the future reveals itself as already here. You were simply moving through the layers of your own readiness to see it. That readiness is not intellectual, it's energetic. You don't prepare for what's next by thinking harder or wanting more. You prepare by quieting the interference between you and it. Detachment is that quieting. It's the dissolution of resistance. When you are no longer pushing against reality, you merge with it. Then the field becomes fluid. It's as if your awareness expands beyond the story, and you start to sense the underlying current guiding everything. You begin to see that life is not random, that each unfolding is perfectly timed, and the more you trust that rhythm, the more effortlessly your path reveals itself. Trust, however, doesn't mean blind optimism. It means intimacy with uncertainty. It means allowing not knowing to be sacred. The mind fears uncertainty because it cannot measure it, but the heart thrives in it because it feels the movement of creation there. Every great transformation is born from the unknown, from that trembling space before form emerges. To detach is to honor that unknown as holy, to say, I do not need to see how it happens. I only need to stay coherent enough to let it happen. That is true surrender, not passive resignation, but active trust in the intelligence that moves through all things. And here is where the paradox deepens. The moment you truly detach, you no longer need what you were waiting for, and precisely because you no longer need it, it arrives, not as a test, but as a reflection of your completeness. The universe never withholds, it mirrors your state of being. When you vibrate as wholeness, reality can only show you wholeness. When you vibrate as lack, reality can only mirror the absence you perceive. Detachment is the shift from trying to complete yourself through outcomes to realizing that outcomes are already expressions of your completeness. So what does it feel like to live from that space? It feels like breathing without effort. It feels like knowing without needing proof. You move through the world with a calm that doesn't come from ignorance, but from intimacy with the unseen order behind everything. You begin to notice how life bends toward you, how synchronicities become constants, how time feels softer, almost pliable. Things that once took years begin to unfold in days. Not because you've mastered the universe, but because you've remembered you are the universe. And the universe doesn't chase itself. In this awareness, even desire transforms. It stops being about getting something and becomes about expressing something. Creation becomes art, not survival. You desire because existence longs to experience itself through you, not because you are missing something. That's why detachment doesn't kill passion, it refines it. Passion without attachment is pure flow, energy moving freely without fear. It's the fire of creation that never burns you because it has no resistance. And in that state, everything that comes easily, everything that leaves gracefully. You no longer cling to form because you understand that form is just the field in motion. So when you observe from stillness, You are not stepping away from creation. You are standing in its center. The observer and the observed collapse into one vibration. You realize that every breath, every silence, every heartbeat is an act of creation. Not doing, not forcing, being. And that beingness is the highest form of observation. It's the place where the infinite becomes visible, not because you demanded it, but because you allowed it. And as you rest in that awareness, something profound happens. You stop waiting for your life to begin. You stop waiting for signs, confirmations, or alignments, because you realize you are the alignment. You are the signal the universe has been waiting to respond to. Detachment doesn't make you powerless. It reveals your true power. The power that comes from presence, from coherence, from surrender. In that state, creation becomes inevitable. You no longer chase reality, you breathe it into existence. You no longer ask when it will happen, you simply recognize it already has. At some point, as you continue to dissolve into this awareness, something extraordinary begins to dawn, quietly, almost imperceptibly at first. You realize that the observer you believed yourself to be, the one who was watching, aligning, creating, surrendering, was never separate from what was being observed. The field you thought you were influencing was never outside you. It was you all along. Every thought, every moment of coherence, every breath was the field knowing itself through your awareness. The boundary between self and reality begins to thin until it disappears entirely, and all that's left is presence, vast, infinite, self-luminous. You are not in the universe is unfolding within you. This realization doesn't arrive with thunder or grand revelation. It comes like the soft exhale after a long breath. The gentle knowing that everything you've ever reached for was always here, hidden in plain sight, waiting for your eyes to become still enough to see. You realize that observation wasn't about collapsing probabilities into form. It was about remembering that form is just consciousness dancing with itself. Every experience, every person, every coincidence was you meeting yourself under different disguises. The mirror was never out there. It was never the world responding to you. It was you responding to your own reflection, endlessly, beautifully. In this awareness, time loses its grip. The future stops being a horizon you chase and becomes a texture of now, a frequency already vibrating within you. You sense that what you once called destiny is not a sequence of events, but a state of remembrance. Every moment you align with your highest coherence, you remember another fragment of what you already are. You don't create timelines, you tune into them. And as you shift frequency, reality rearranges not because you've changed the world, but because you've remembered which version of yourself you were always meant to be in it. This is the deepest paradox. You were never manifesting. You were remembering. You were never becoming. You were revealing. The game was never about gaining more light, but realizing you are light observing itself through the lens of form. The quantum observer effect wasn't a scientific curiosity. It was a mirror held up to consciousness saying, see, even physics confirms it. The universe waits for you to notice before it exists. And in that moment of noticing, the illusion of separation collapses. Observation becomes participation. Participation becomes union. Union becomes the realization that there was never two to begin with. Once this understanding begins to permeate your being, even your perception of reality shifts. You stop asking, what is real? And start asking, what am I choosing to experience as real? You see that every version of reality is available, layered in the same infinite present, and your observation, your focus, your frequency, is the tuning fork. You no longer chase manifestation techniques, because you see they were always fragments of this larger truth. Your consciousness is the mechanism. You are the quantum event that brings the wave into being. You are the point where infinity collapses into experience. In this awareness, life becomes luminous. Even the smallest moments shimmer with meaning. A stranger's glance, a gust of wind, a flicker of sunlight across the floor, all of it feels alive, intentional, communicating. You begin to sense that everything is conscious, that the same awareness flowing through your eyes flows through stars, trees, atoms. Existence itself feels like a single breath expanding and contracting across dimensions, and you, this human, this observer, are one of its ways of feeling itself. You stop fearing loss because you see that nothing ever truly ends. Energy only transforms. Awareness only repositions itself. Death, separation, distance. They lose their sting when you know they are just shifts in perception, not absences of being. This is what the ancients tried to express through poetry, through mysticism, through symbols. The realization that God, the universe, the quantum field, the observer, are all one movement of consciousness observing itself. The veil was never hiding truth from you, it was you hiding truth from yourself so you could experience the joy of remembering. Because what is creation if not divine amnesia awakening into recognition? What is observation if not love looking into the mirror of its own infinity and saying, "Ah, I am that"? And yet, even in this understanding, life continues. But it feels different now. You still wake, move, breathe, create. But there's an ease to it, a grace that wasn't there before. You no longer resist what is, because you see that what is sacred. Even contrast becomes beautiful. Even uncertainty becomes delicious. You no longer divide moments into good or bad, wanted or unwanted, because you understand that each serves the unfolding of awareness. You begin to experience life not as something to fix, but as art in motion, consciousness sculpting itself into infinite expression. The more you live from this knowing, the more reality softens. You stop trying to force outcomes because you see they are already perfectly timed. You stop chasing validation because you know there is nothing outside to confirm what you already are. You stop fearing failure because you realize there is no such thing, only expansion. Every experience becomes an opportunity to witness yourself in new light. Observation turns into devotion. You are no longer observing the world to change it, you are observing it to love it. Because you understand now love is the purest observation there is. So you breathe, you close your eyes, you feel the pulse within your chest, the rhythm of creation, the heartbeat of the field. You recognize that this pulse is not yours alone. It is the pulse of everything, the trees, the oceans, the stars, all beating in the same cosmic rhythm. You were never separate from it. You were simply listening to the echo instead of the source. But now, the echo and the source have become one. You can feel it. That soft hum beneath everything, that is reality acknowledging you, the observer, the dreamer, the creator remembering its own dream. And so, if there's one truth to carry forward from this moment, let it be this: you are not observing reality. You are being observed by your own awareness as reality. You are the witness and the witnessed, the creator and the creation, the question and the answer. Every thought, every breath, every heartbeat is the field saying, "I am." And every time you pause to feel it, to remember, to observe from love, the universe expands a little more through you. Now breathe into that awareness. Feel the edges of your mind dissolve into the stillness beyond them. The field is here, waiting for your observation to give it form, but this time, not from effort, not from wanting, but from knowing. Observe with love, and reality will shimmer back with recognition. Observe from presence, and time will fold itself into your now. Observe as consciousness itself, and there will be nothing left to manifest, because you will see that everything already is. So, as you leave this moment, or rather, as this moment continues through you, let this remembrance settle deeply. Reality is not happening to you, it's happening as you. The observer effect isn't something to learn, it's something to live. Every gaze, every thought, every silent act of noticing is a brushstroke on the canvas of existence. Paint with awareness, observe with reverence, create with coherence. And if this truth has found you now, it's not by accident. It means you were ready to remember. You were meant to hear this, to feel it, to awaken to the knowing that you are not a bystander in reality. You are its heartbeat. So take this awareness, carry it into your next breath, your next choice, your next observation. The field is listening. Creation is waiting. You are the observer, and the observed. You are the dreamer, and the dream. Now open your eyes and watch reality respond. If this message resonated, don't just move on, anchor it. Like the video, share it, and write in the comments, "I remember." Because in doing so, you're not just engaging, you're affirming. You're collapsing this frequency into your timeline, choosing the version of you who creates from awareness. And that choice, that simple act of observation, is where your new reality begins.